Hello everybody, welcome back to Life Stories. My name is Trent, and as usual, I hope you're all doing awesome. Today, we got more stories coming at you from Reddit/entitledparents. So, without further ado, let's get this show started. Our first story is titled, My Entitled Mother Costs Herself Everything, Part 1. I know it's a day or two late, but happy Mother's Day. What better time to talk about entitled mothers than today, huh? I tried posting this the first time, but it was instantaneously removed with damn near no explanation. I haven't gotten all that clear of an answer why, but best I can assume is that it was way too long. And maybe my account doesn't qualify to have stories as long as this one? Who knows? I'll split it up into parts this time, and hope it'll let me post. Anywho, if you're looking for a too long didn't read, look within Part 5, Epilogue. This story is a hell of a long one. I've been sitting on this for a few months, ever since I started getting familiar with Reddit terms such as entitled parents and whatnot. I've been debating on who in my cast of people I know would qualify as one. The first one that came to mind was my mother. I've been hesitant to call her an entitled mother because she was always real sweet to me. I was always a mama's boy growing up. The more I talked to my dad about it, the more things started to add up within the missing pieces of my memory from my childhood. It kinda clicked in my head. You don't have to be outwardly mean to people to qualify for the title of entitled parent. Your actions will speak for themselves. Better get comfy for this one. I know this is far longer than most EP stories. I separated everything into a digestible 5 acts. If any Reddit-tubers want to read this, go for it. Just letting it be known, I'm basically spilling my life story into this. Well, about 80% of the important stuff relevant to the post. Let's get cracking. Backstory. I grew up on a 63-acre chicken farm in a small, middle-of-nowhere town. It's a really cozy little place, and maybe even where I'll retire when the time comes. Who knows? The property had 2 different sides to it, one with the chicken houses and a pasture next to it we let our neighbors use, and the other being a large clearing where we kept hay bales. This side led down to the road, and across that road was another clearing that had a pathway that led to a river. In the middle of these 2 halves was a large hill with our house and shop at the top. From the house, you could see all of the property. It was gorgeous. My mother also grew up on a farm and had consulted my father about raising their children on a farm, and he agreed. He was working in the trucking industry, and still to this day, he was in and out of the office, but often in my early life, he was out driving. By the time I was 5, he had settled down in the office chair and began dispatching trucks. That was his side of bringing in the bread, and my mother's was supposed to be the farm. It was what she wanted, a lovely house on a farm with kids playing around the yard with 2 lovely loyal dogs to help play with and protect the children. Those golden retrievers were incredible. She and Dad had done it. They were living the dream most people wish they had. Act 1. The divorce. One day, Mom just stopped working her farm job. She just sat in the living room on her computer watching TV. She wasn't doing dishes, she wasn't cleaning, she wasn't doing laundry, nothing. She was throwing all their mess on the bed, and they were no longer sleeping in there. Instead, they were sleeping on the couch because she wasn't cleaning anything. My dad was pulling 60 hours every week, and that's a minimum. Expecting him to come home from work to do more work was just inconsiderate, especially since she wasn't even doing her job anymore. So, to keep the farm afloat, Dad took up arms working and managing the farm on top of his job that he was cutting hours from to keep this up. Then, the fighting started. Dad would confront Mom about her laziness, and she would just dodge the questions or would just downplay the situation. It didn't escalate until she started spending 2,000 of the 1,500 she made every week, as my dad put it. The arguments turned into shouting, and then eventually, Dad would start to thrash his arms into a shelf or the bar, knocking everything off of it and making her clean up, which may sound harsh, but a completely understandable response. She was costing us money for bills and food when we didn't need them, on top of the fact that she wasn't making any money herself. Despite the fact that it was her that wanted the farm in the first place and accepted the responsibility of managing the farm. My dad is a very strong family man. He would jump off a cliff if it meant the rest of his family was safe. Mom started blowing through the money that was meant to continue paying for the farm. as well as the house, which only made things worse. One day, Mom was having extreme pains. At one point, she even went to the hospital. When she came back, she was prescribed thyroid medicine. My memory is very hazy at this part, so apologies if not everything adds up. Once she got her hands on the thyroid medicine, she got addicted. She was abusing the stuff regularly, and her hookup was her scumbag doctor. It became evident that she didn't even need it anymore, and was just taking it for whatever high she could get off of it. Author's note: I'm actually not 100% certain if it was a thyroid medicine that she got addicted to. I know that's what she had prescribed, but not if what she was addicted to. But it was definitely something that would be supplied by a shady doctor. I'm likely claiming the wrong medication that she got addicted to. If it doesn't make sense, forgive me, but for the sake of the story, I'm just going to continue saying it was thyroid medicine. If nothing else, just as a placeholder until I figure out what she actually got addicted to. My father confronted her about this, too, and she not only said she was still in pain, she wasn't, she was moving perfectly fine. Hell, I'd argue better than before. She used it as an excuse to not work on the farm. It was at this point Dad considered divorce, but still wanted to give her a chance. He told her she had until I was 13 to get her stuff together, stop abusing drugs, and get a job. Take a guess at what she did. Spent more money. Eventually, the farm just became a barren piece of land with a few chicken houses in it. They'd pretty much lost all business on it. At the same time, the ceiling of the laundry room had caved in overnight. Dad had gone to investigate and ended up calling an expert. Guess what? We had freaking termites eating our house up. Fantastic. At this point, I think I was about 7 or 8, so I remember seeing most of what happens next. We ended up moving in a mobile home next to our house, as in maybe 50 feet, as in I would see our old house right outside my window. I could clearly see our old living room. This was where we spent the last few years on the farm until I actually did turn 13. A few years after moving into the mobile home, Dad came back from work. He was cleaning out the closet, since it ain't been touched since God knows when. He found an odd box in the back, and when he opened it, it was full of just bottles and bottles of thyroid medication that were each empty. He confronted her again, and in came the excuses. This was the last straw. Dad finally snapped. This one I was there for. At this point, I had fashioned my parents' bedroom into my own. Dad was always busy with work, and my mom was too damn lazy to do anything about it. So, it became mine. This bedroom was right next to where they were arguing. Dad took everything on the island in the kitchen and slammed everything into the ground. All the crap that was built up for however long that Mom never bothered to clean, he smashed into the ground. Because again, Dad's pulling a crazy amount of hours trying to keep us afloat, and not only was she costing us money and not working, she was making a mess all over the house. At this point, I had thought Mom was the victim. I was a kid. I was short-sighted as hell. Little did I know how much my mom freaking deserved it. My dad never laid a hand on my mother, or any woman, but I wouldn't blame him if he did. I'm not saying that it would have been okay, I'm just saying I would understand why he would feel the urge to. Dad would never do that anyway, unless she was endangering someone. He would never attack a woman, let alone his wife. The next day, Dad went to the pharmacy where the doctor who was supplying Mom with thyroid medication was, and tore his butt a new one. Dad ended up getting banned and was just labeled the crazy guy who came in screaming at doctors just trying to do their jobs. Yeah, their job's supplying drug addicts with drugs, boo freaking who. Again, small town, so no surprise this small town pharmacy had a couple of loopholes in it if you catch my drift. At this point, Dad finally settled on leaving her. Before, he was bluffing, but now his mind was set. He gave her a list and told her to follow it if she wanted him to stay. The list was very simple, completely reasonable, and should be expected of any spouse who isn't working. The list was, drop the drugs, get a job, until you can get a job, clean the house every day, get the kids up and to school every day, for the love of God, stop spending all our money, do the laundry, and cook for the kids. That was pretty much it. Dad was off working his butt off, and all he asked of my mother was to do her job as a mother. Can you guess how that went? $3,000 out of the bank on more useless crap, taking crap out of my dad's credit card, and the mobile home deteriorating even further. The laundries were stacked up so much, our laundry room was inaccessible. I never saw the floor of that room again. The room was the size of a closet, so it didn't take much. So, the time came. I finally turned 13. Dad waited until I was finally the age where both me and my sister were old enough to pick which parent to live with. Not only has Mom done nothing to clean her act up, but she actually made it worse. Dad is a firm believer that you shouldn't hide your wealth from your spouse. He wasn't wealthy, but he was freaking settled. At least, he could have been. Even through all of this, he still didn't hide the amount of money he was making from Mom until their divorce was final. I actually didn't learn of this principle until about a month ago when the topic came up. He told Mom one last warning. If you don't clean your act up on your own, you're going to end up a meth head living in the streets selling your body. And he didn't mean this as an insult. It was a genuine warning. He had spent the last 15 years with this woman and knew exactly how she was going to turn out if she didn't heed his warning. Naturally, she took it as an insult and just played it off like he was just being an a-hole. My father, being the poor, generous soul that he was, actually ended up giving my mom $500 a week to live off of. It was only for a few months, because he didn't want to leave her without giving her some sort of chance. On top of that, nobody can say that he screwed her over. In fact, this next plot twist will explain how much of a man my father is. Because he felt it was the man thing to do, he accepted full responsibility for the farm and went bankrupt from it. He's got the papers to prove it. He didn't recover from that until about 6 months ago. Part 2, right underneath. And that's amazing because we're out of time now, but we got the link to Part 2, meaning next Entitled Parents episode, we can come straight back and see what Part 2 has in store. So I want to thank all you guys for tuning in to this long episode. I hope you're all doing great. You know how it goes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Reddit content coming your way, and I hope to see you guys soon.